Thomas rented the Pilgrim Chapel parsonage until Liz and I moved in. Then he moved next door, lovebirds and all, to the Millens carriage house. Thomas was Canadian Catholic, born on the U.S. side of the Vermont border, thus having many strange ideas about the Blessed Virgin Mary, whom he believed lived in Pilgrim Chapel, having seen her there, as well as a belief that if he had not already done so, he would soon win the $1 million publisher's sweepstakes. Once when the chapel property was surveyed, small crosses were chiseled into the sidewalk, marking its boundary lines. We told Thomas these crosses meant that those living next to the chapel on Judgment Day would be saved. He believed us. Thomas was not saved, however. In the year of our Lord, 1999, he died of AIDS. His mother and sister, family who had rejected him and his gayness forever, swooped down like vultures from Vermont to pack up his meager treasures, minus the birds, assuming they had some right to his life after all those years of denying him. Kind they were not, as if those of us who cared for him in dying were responsible for the embarrassment of his life. At Pilgrim Chapel, on the day of his memorial service, Protestants presiding, Thomas's ashes sat centered on the altar along with his photograph and a small green plant. Before anyone arrived, I debated with myself the performing of a miracle of sorts, a type of transubstantiation, some might call it, my first of this nature, so I proceeded cautiously. Our dog, Keisha, had died several weeks prior to Thomas, and her ashes remained contained in a box on the parsonage mantel next to a small green plant sent to us in Keisha's memory by Hires Gage, her veterinarian. What, I said to myself, if I switched ashes, allowing Keisha's remains to go to Vermont and keeping Thomas's here to be spread around the chapel in eternal view of the Virgin Mary, denying those vultures from Vermont their final pickings? I laughed, thinking, what would Jesus do? In my mind, I would walk clockwise around the chapel 3 times and spread his ashes. I would call this Thomas's walk. I would tell no one. I didn't do this, I don't think. Transfer the ashes, that is, not the walk. I say I don't think because rumor has it that I did make an exchange using a large wooden spoon to mix love and death, dividing them equally into 2 parts. On occasion, and I invite you to join me, I still walk 3 times around the chapel, smiling, thinking of Thomas and his lovebirds and the Virgin Mary, who I have now seen also. She wears a red cape and appears inside the chapel on late sunny afternoons in August or early September. I think too of Keisha, and if I did perform this miracle, if only partially, as I'm told I might have, but will never admit, I pray she's getting better care than Thomas ever received from those vultures back in Vermont.